Hey everybody, so this is part two where I'm going through my vinyl collection that's been sitting in my Batcave closet or across the room from me. Honestly, I don't remember what's in these two crates. So these are the two that were at the back at the bottom. So last time I went through the ones that were top in the front. So I've got a record player, and when I want to listen to something, those are the ones I go pop open and listen through some of it. And so everything was very out of order. It wasn't alphabetized like I used to have a room in a previous house where I built shelves that had, I've got, I don't know how many thousands of CDs, and I had rows and rows of CDs, and I had all the vinyl on the floor and with wood blocks kind of separating them, keeping them up straight. I'm not so anal and retentive that I have like cardboard inserts so I don't get the circular wear on the covers of the artwork. I should think about doing that though. But anyway, yeah, so I'm excited to, this frustrates me, that when they lean so severely, makes me nervous. I don't like that. But I'm moving them all to my wooden shelves so they'll be straighter, flatter. So that's great. Well, anyway, so I wanted to walk through this on Music Friday and share a bit of what I have. So, because I don't remember what I have. So let's see here. So I have some classics. Was just listening to this as walking the dogs this week, which is from this album, ABC. It's How to Be a Millionaire, and here's the Vanity Kills. So they had never seen that video, the cartoon characters with Martin Fry, F-R-Y. So that I've got some classics, some old Adam and the Ants, and then the newer Adam Ant. If you know some of the story of Adam and the Ants, it was banned. They kind of defected from him, left him, and went and formed, or they joined the band for Bow Wow Wow. And oh, hey, what's this? Nice. I still have look at the size of this laptop bag from SharePoint Conference 2009. Yeah, that's a big laptop. So this is like, I think I could put 2 Surface Pros in this bag. So that's a collector's item. Leave that out there. Let's see, what else do I have here? Aha. Oh, a bunch of classic, if you can see them, Alphaville. This is the album Forever Young, of course. Amazulu. Oh, okay. Yeah, so then you start getting into some collector's space. So one of my all-time favorite albums, in fact, this might be my favorite album of all time. Guess what it is? So it's So Red the Rose by Arcadia, which is the spin-off of Duran Duran. So I have, like, here's the 12-inch and the 7-inch for The Promise. If you like Duran Duran, so this basically, what happened, the band, there was a side project, the Power Station, so John and Andy Taylor, not brothers, Roger Taylor, the drummer, not a brother, just random, all have the same name. But anyway, so John and Andy went and paired off with Robert Taylor, Robert, I'll slow down here. Anyway, they went and formed the Power Station and went and were touring. And so in 1985, I believe it was 85, is when Arcadia, I guess I could look at the album, they went and spun off, 85, and their song Election Day, and they did that album. It was just tons of money poured into that album, and the videos are beautiful and expensive. But it is just a very Nick Rhodes, the synthesizer, the sound that they created. It's just fantastic. I just love it. It's just the production value. My favorite song on the album is Keep Me in the Dark. Just amazing. So I have, of course, like all of that. There's the single for The Flame and another one for The Promise. Oh, hey, so another great from that era, The Art of Noise. Love some of that stuff. A bunch of stuff. Most people are not familiar with them. I have a bunch by the band The Associates. Probably have about a dozen of their singles. More associates. Yeah, I forgot that I had this many. Associates, more. What is this stuff? Oh, B movie. So this is the single for Polar Opposites. B movie. So I mentioned last week. So I had some email exchanges with Paul Statham, who was part of B movie, and I'm hoping to still interview him for the Collab Talk podcast and talk about the impact of technology on the music industry, and especially in the COVID period. And he's actively producing and creating music. He was the co-writer of all of the really popular Peter Murphy songs, albums in the late 80s, early 90s. So he was basically partnered with Peter. And then speaking of Peter Murphy, then you have a bunch of Bauhaus, the Guardian Nick. I've got, of course, the one everyone knows, Bela Lugosi's Dead. I like it. But Big Country, yeah, what is this stuff? Oh, yeah. So one of my all-time favorite bands, people don't recognize that one. Yeah, funny story about this. So this is, the Blow Monkeys. So I have tons of stuff. I have just about everything Blow Monkeys on CD and vinyl. When I first dated my wife when we were teenagers, I was 16, she was 15. I had an old car I bought for $500 off my cousin. It was a 52 Chevy Bel Air Deluxe 4-door, just a massive hunk of steel with a straight 4 engine. People are like, oh, it didn't have a straight 4. Yeah, mine had a straight 4. You open up this massive steel hood, and there you see rods coming out in this little engine in the middle of this body. So the thing couldn't move very fast, but once it got going, thankfully the brakes were good. It was, yeah, I remember somebody ran into me in a parking lot. I couldn't even tell that they hit my car. And theirs was a mangled, like a Nissan truck, and it just was destroyed, a corner of it. But not even a scratch on mine. Yeah, I have tons of Blow Monkeys stuff. If you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend you go take a look at their first 3 albums are fantastic. Here's their 3rd album, She Was Only a Grocer's Daughter. And then they went a bit more, I would say mainstream, kind of radio friendly, did more of the soul, the R&B side of things. I preferred more of the new wave stuff, the earlier stuff, but Dr. Robert, just very talented singer and guitarist. Oh, hey, there's another B movie. Oh, here's another band that most people don't know, but so the Bolshoi. This is the single to Away, which was one of their big singles. My favorite song, so I've got like their EP, Friends, but this is the one that I knew the most. So it has the song Giants and by the river, but my favorite song is Fly. So that's what I heard. I'm trying to remember where I even came across that song. It may have been on Live 105 out of San Francisco, but just fantastic. Oh, so I Touch Roses by Book of Love. You kind of see the top of that. It's a lot of glare on there. You can see that I Touch Roses. There we go. One of the best concerts I ever saw in San Francisco at the Warfield, and where I don't remember who the first act was. It was a woman on a guitar, and people were just bored to death on it. And they came out, and of course it's all synth, but their harmonies and the synth it was fantastic. Here's another popular song. So when I went off to college in '86, and there was a club in Provo called Plastiques that I was at probably at least two times a week. It disrupted most of my freshman year, attended that. But Book of Love was very popular at that time. Oh, this is a great song, but Lost in Your Eyes, Modigliani. It's another great single from Book of Love. Let's see. Let's start getting into Bowie, a bunch of Bowie, and then, and that's a mix in there. Then I have, of course, tons of Peter Murphy. Yeah, I'll have to do a walkthrough of just my Peter Murphy collection at some point. So that my vinyl is like, I don't know, the stack is like that. Bowie, bunch of old Bowie. You know, been into Bowie since junior high. Just loved his stuff. So the early 80s, got into that era. Oh, hey, another Blow Monkeys got out of place there. Bowie, lots of Bowie. And then we start getting into, Dallas Car, which is Peter Murphy with Mick Karn from Japan. But then we also start getting into The Cure. So The Cure, where people associated Duran Duran with me, with my wife when she's a teenager, it was The Cure. So she went through multiple hair colors and all kind of, you know, she was into that. It wasn't really referred to as the goth scene, but, you know, she was on that kind of side of things. Bronski Beat, some great dance music as well, coming from that mid-'80s club scene. Let's see, what's that? Oh, yeah. I'm sure most people don't know this. Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine. Excellent, yeah. The Chameleons, China Crisis, the Communards, bunch of Communards, lots of that. The Cult. Then you start getting into The Cure. And I do have some rarities from The Cure. Of course, this was, you know, back in the day, in the pre-eBay day of things. So, like, this was hard to find, The Cure Quadpus. So it has A Night Like This, New Day, Close to Me, and one of my all-time favorite songs from The Cure called The Man Inside My Mouth. And but it's just a fantastic song. In fact, it's I say the pre-eBay days, like I don't know how much I paid for that vinyl record back before, you know, eBay. Is a wonderful thing that happened when eBay first started for music collectors, was that suddenly we saw all of this music, you know, that are able to find rarities that I've been searching for, Goldmine Magazine and at record stores, and just constantly doing special orders and paying hundreds of dollars for something that's rare. Suddenly saw, like, I always use this example. There's a box set from Peter Murphy that has a videotape and a CD with extended versions and rarities, and also a picture book with just a bunch of art and photos. And I paid, I think, $200 for my box set. I had seen it go for $400 or $500. And so when eBay happened, I came across another one for $80, and I was able to turn around and sell it for like $120, $140, something like that. And then suddenly, within like 3 to 6 months, there were dozens of those. And basically, everybody who wanted to buy one of those box sets bought it, and then no one could sell it. So you can now find that same box set. I could go there right now, and there's probably a dozen of that box set, and they're all selling between, or not selling, for $20 to $40. So that's what happens with the supply, and suddenly everyone had access to that. We could all access the long tail. So for collectors, it's wonderful because it helped drive down the cost of those. But it also, you know, the true rare items, you know, that collectors know about. Like I scan every once in a while eBay to find Peter Murphy stuff, and just flipping through, I don't need to look at my collection. I pretty much know what I have, because he's the one artist that I will buy every version of every record, every CD that's out there. That's my collection, you know, the most around Peter Murphy stuff. And I'll see that I haven't bought anything Peter Murphy except some of his new stuff that's come out over the last couple of years. I haven't bought anything old in, I don't know, 6 to 8 years, just because I haven't. All right, lots of, what is this, more Cure? What is this one? Oh, I think I was at the, where was I? Yeah, I paid $1 for this. My older brother was really into Genesis, and some of their early stuff is back in the, I actually don't care for the Peter Gabriel stuff. He was the original lead singer of Genesis before Phil Collins. I don't care for a lot of the oldest Genesis stuff. It's that prog rock stuff, which never liked. Even as a kid, I didn't like it. But it's just, you know, classic stuff, and they're very talented. And so I found it, like, for $1, how can I not pick that up for $1 and add it to the collection? Because I do like a lot of their stuff. Crappy cover, but I do have some other stuff of theirs, but Gene Loves Jezebel. One of those bands where, and I know they're kind of out touring now, and it's kind of sad to see some of the bands. They don't sound exactly the same, but always wish that I had gone and seen Gene Loves Jezebel. It's kind of like Morrissey's band after he left the Smiths. The Smiths, really talented. Gene Loves Jezebel band, really talented. If you don't like the singers, you won't like them, but I like the general public. I was a huge English beat fan, so general public, which spun off that, of course, I'm a huge fan of. Oh, this is great. So I've got a few of their singles and stuff, but Frewer. If you don't know Frewer, it's basically the lead singer and the keyboardist Carl and Eric are Underworld now. So they went and Frewer was kind of a throwaway name. They needed a name. They had a symbol that they used, and that, of course, showing up for a concert venue. The promoters didn't like that, so they called themselves Frewer, and they were this glam new wave band in the early '80s. Their biggest single was Doot Doot. But they rebranded as Underworld, put out a couple mainstream top 40 radio type albums, and they had some popular singles, and I absolutely hated them. But they had that. I liked the song Underneath the Radar, really catchy top 40 sounding song. And then they were they did, I think in between Frewer and Underworld brands, they had, what is it called, Lemon Interrupt. They did like a 12-inch or an EP. But then they formed Underworld, well, I guess they did those first two albums. The band kind of broke up again. It was essentially just same as Frewer. I think they had the same drummer. I think it was the same band and bass player. But they hooked up with a third guy about doing just pure synth and doing other kind of artsier stuff. And Underworld is now just massive, of course, out there. So I've got a lot of the Underworld stuff. Of course, can't consider yourself a new wave guy without having a bunch of Flock of Seagulls. So I've got a bunch of that stuff. The Fix, love The Fix. Shuttered Room off their first album. This is one of the singles. It's fantastic. I love this. Yeah, Less Cities, More Moving People. Yeah, I think 84 to 86. The Fix was probably in my top 5 bands that I listened to. Falco, yes, Rock Me Amadeus. Vienna Calling, Fad Gadget, Frank Tubby. Of course, he went and did more folksy stuff later, but this is Fad Gadget, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and Love Parasite. It's a great song, Love Parasite. Collapsing New People. I guess I can pick it up and show you this, but Fad Gadget dance music stuff. It's pretty good. Tons. One of, again, my top 5 of all-time favorite bands, Eurythmics. So I remember in the late 70s, my dad actually bought a tape or record of the Tourists, so the band they were in together. So Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox were together as a couple. I think they broke up before forming the Eurythmics, but split off and formed the Eurythmics. But a bunch of the Tourists music is now out on Spotify, so you can find it there. And so, Annie was one of the 2 lead singers from the project, and of course, just completely eclipsed the other guy, and so they went and filmed that. But Love Is a Stranger, great stuff. I'm going to flip this around so I can see the covers as I'm going through these backwards. Of course, there's the one everybody knows, which is Sweet Dreams. Let's see, what else do I have that? I've got all the colored vinyl of, Who's That Girl, blue and red. I have, I think in 7 inches, one of my favorite soundtracks was for the movie 1984. So the soundtrack to that album, all Eurythmics, it is amazing. Here's a band that most people don't know. Going back to kind of The Cure. So back in the live, and here's the album, back in the Live 105 days, there's a song which was just kind of hauntingly beautiful, and I was like, this is a Cure song. They've mellowed out a little bit. So this was in the Cure Pornography, Head on the Door era, and they were starting to pick up popularity in the U.S. It was before. It was so you know I think it was the Standing by the Sea, the singles like that era. So post Head on the Door, before Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. So heard on Live 105 this song, and it turned out to be this band called The Essence. And this was the, I think this is the, what year is that? So it's like 87, 88. I think 88. Anyway, I just thought it was a side project of Robert Smith, that they were going under another pseudonym or something. But no, it's this other band, and their later stuff sounds less like The Cure. But that, you know, the Monument of Trust, A Monument of Trust is, that album is very Cure-like. Okay, then we started getting into, of course, my fairly extensive collection of Duran Duran. There's Rio. I think that's unopened. A lot of just the, you know, the Carnival EP. So this was, I had a bunch of this stuff. Like I paid, what, $10 for that. This is a Japanese import version of that. I've got a few of the earliest singles, like Planet Earth with the old artwork. The original artwork is just very different from the glossy stuff, you know. Careless Memories, pretty, that girl's looking pretty excited on there, and the original Girls on Film. So I have, you know, different variations of each of these things. One of my favorite songs by them, Like an Angel, the extended My Own Way version. Of course, then you get into Tiger Tiger. I think this has got a mini poster in it. I've never opened it, so it's still in perfect condition here. Paid, what, where did I buy that? At The Beat. I bought it for $16. Then you start getting into the, what is this? Oh, Depeche Mode. A bunch of early Depeche Mode. What is this? Oh, The Blasphemous Rumors. 12-inch. Got a lot of Depeche Mode. Yeah, it looks like it's mixed. Thomas Dolby, you know, a lot of the early Thomas Dolby stuff. Of course, he went on to do production. For a while, it wasn't on Spotify, but I found, so one of the projects where he was a producer for it and helped get them up and going was Prefab Sprout, which was really big in the UK. I don't know why. I thought a lot of their stuff was just boring, you know, the top 40-ish stuff. But you know, listening to it the first time, I thought, this sounds musically a lot like Thomas Dolby in some of the production, and then found out that, oh yeah, so he produced the album. So it even sounded like him on a couple of songs, the lead singer, but it wasn't. Oh, another great, I've got their CDs, but a side project of Bowie. I think I talked about this. I've got the vinyl and the other two cases here, but Tin Machine. If you like David Bowie, but like the more rock side, the alternative rock, and where he started hanging out with Reeves Gabrels, who's just an incredible, I think I pronounced that correctly, incredible guitarist. And they started up their friendship there and stuck together, and Reeves played on a lot of David's stuff later in life. Sparks, I love this song. This is that mid-'80s club song. This is one of my favorites. Music that you can dance to. In fact, when I walk the dogs, I don't like wearing headphones, and so I'll have my phone playing on Spotify. That's in my playlist. More Mick Karn, Bowie. What is this? The Cure. Oh, just some remixes of The Cure. I don't even know what it is. A bunch of David Sylvian. So I love his solo stuff. Oh, Pop Song. Awesome song. I've thought about redoing Pop Song and doing kind of the more analog punk version of that, because it's very repetitive. And since I'm more of a, oh, hey, this goes way back. So this is something that I had. So this is the limited edition Duran Duran master mixes. When was this? So this was 86. So this is one that did not get stolen, because I had it in different boxes for some reason. So I've had this for a long time. So I think it's all just white label Duran Duran extended versions. But I'm not taking care of that vinyl the way that I should. More Thomas Dolby. More Duran Duran. Lots of Duran Duran. More Duran Duran. Depeche Mode. Lots of Depeche Mode. Most people started to really get into Depeche Mode was the what is the album? Well, I guess we really got into it was in the Violator. So like Enjoy the Silence, like this era, I think is where they really crossed over. But it's the album prior to that where they really took off. Yeah, so with like the single Never Let Me Down Again. Great music. Let's see. Oh, and then of course I have a fairly extensive Dead or Alive, again, mid-'80s clubbing music. It has that stock Acting Waterman classic sound, of course. Dead Can Dance, Dance Society. Oh, hey, and here's a kind of a one-off. They even call them a one-hit wonder. They never really had a hit, but the Wild Swans, not to be confused with the Swans, which I think were came out in the 90s, but the Wild Swans. So just very melancholy, just kind of more dreamy pop, slower, but really enjoy. It's great driving music. Morrissey, Transvision Vamp. Yeah, another classic 80s, but Haircut 100. Boy, this stuff is really out of order. Oh, and then you start getting into Visage. I mentioned in the last recording, I was a huge fan of Ultravox. And so Visage was one of those side projects, kind of a bunch of folks from different bands coming together and doing the side project around a couple main people. Erasure, a bunch of Erasure. I was not a fan of the first couple albums, just not that kind of pop music. But when it got into the like Blue Savannah and that era, just fantastic. I like the band a lot. And this is another great song, Chorus. Just fantastic. Really enjoy them live too. Just both of them are so talented. And that's it. It ends on Erasure. So I thought about going through my 7-inch the single collection, but I think I'm just going to leave that back in the music closet and leave it for another time. But that's it. I'm going to go transport. What I'm doing is I'm moving all of my vinyl onto the wooden shelves that are all there and secure, and stacking the bins and just getting more room in the closet. And I hope to be able to go through. I've got other crates of CDs out in the garage that I want to bring in and set up so I can go through them. I'm not listening to CDs anymore, but what I am doing, because I don't have a CD player in the house. It's just in my car. But there are a number of albums which are not available on anywhere, any of the streaming music catalogs. And I'm just going to go through and start highlighting some of those, listening to them in my car, because I've forgotten what I've owned. And I used to have it all on a website, had everything cataloged, and I don't have the time or the interest in doing that again, but it was a lot of effort to maintain that database. Now that I'm not adding to it like I was years ago, maybe I could go through and put that together, but whatever. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.